Go to Joe 303.
Tomorrow's Superstars Tuesday.
Is that the stable genius saying that?
30330. My name's Joe Biden. I'm a Democratic candidate for the United States Senate. How many unsafe bridges you still have here in the state of Iowa? And
This is a guy who doesn't know what he's doing.
We choose truth over facts.
We'll see who's sleepy.
I'm not going nuts. 30330.
We hold these truths to be self-evident.
All men and women created by the you know the thing.
All right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
I got started out of HBCU. No mistake.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
I just did Chris. No, I just did Chuck.
30330.
Around the nation, DYT Nation, Jeff Alder here with you. TGIF, it's Friday. We got a great Friday show for you guys today. Really kind of a big news day. We've got, of course, Joe Biden. The news about that, Joe Biden finally addresses the allegations against him from his former Senate staffer, Tara Reade. So we're going to talk about that. That is one of the big stories of the day. But we've also got other stuff. We have, for example, something about Joe's VP, right? So I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't want to give it away. But we are going to talk about what the donors are saying about a possible VP pick. So for Joe Biden. I know look, the way that I see it right now is with these allegations in full swing, I think the Biden campaign is going to really try to make a pick to divert the narrative going on about this entire sexual assault allegations. So we're going to talk about that. That's my theory about this, that they're going to pick very soon, maybe within the next couple of weeks, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. So anyway, we've got that. We have a little bit of an update on Mike Pence's mask gate. That's fun times. And then Alex Jones wants to eat your ass. Yeah, so there's that. Boy, that's an interesting way to start out the show. But before we get into it, please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. We're doing a Patron Drive. So patreon.com/TYTNation. That is the best way, one of the best ways that you can support independent progressive media. The other way, of course, which is, this is good, signing up to be a channel member. So you can use that, do the channel member thing by hitting the join button below. You can use the super chat. That also helps us. Lots of different ways to help the show. But we're, again, doing a patron and member drive. So we're up to 113 channel members. That's awesome. Maybe we can get that to 150 by the end of the month. That would be super awesome. And then we want to get to 500 patrons. 400 patrons. We wanted to do that by the end of the month. Unfortunately, we're not there. We're at 379. So we lost a couple. We were at 383 yesterday. We're at 379 now. So we've lost some ground. Unfortunately, Patreon is very, very important for the health and sustainability of the channel. So if you're able to, and I understand that maybe some people are not able to because of the tough financial situation, I totally get that. Those of you who can, please do. Please sign up. All right. Or, you can also buy stuff like this. I use it. It's a good quality mug. So you can buy one of those on the Teespring store as well. You can find the link in the description. All right. So it is Friday, meaning that tomorrow we're going to have a new episode of Here's the Thing. So I'm really, really excited. I'm looking forward to that. We have, of course, our guest, Benjamin Dixon of the Benjamin Dixon Show. Great progressive man who took down Michael Bloomberg. So we're going to talk to him. It's going to be an excellent discussion. We're going to probably cover a wide array of topics. And you know what makes that show possible? Supporting independent progressive media. So doing Patreon and doing the Super Chats, all that goes to helping this show and to also make extra stuff like the podcast possible. So thank you. If you enjoy that podcast, you can thank the members or you can become a member yourself. All right. So that said, let's dive into the stories. All right. Alex Jones wants you to know that he will eat your ass.
I'll eat my neighbors. See, my superpower is being honest. I'll eat your ass. I will.
He will. He'll do it. That, of course, is in the context of not the fun way of eating ass, but in the I will kill you and eat you, as in cannibalism. Really kind of brings a new meaning to, won't you be my neighbor? No, Alex, I will not be your neighbor. I will pass. Whew. All right, so look, let me give you more context. There's plenty more video on that, but I'm not really sure giving that more context is going to make it better. But here it is anyway.
I've extrapolated this out, and I won't have to for a few years because I got food and stuff, but I'm literally looking at my neighbors now and going, I'm ready to hang them up and gut them and skin them and chop them up. And you know what? I'm ready. My daughters aren't starving to death. I'll eat my neighbors. See, my superpower is being honest. I'll eat your ass. I will. I'm combat model, optimum self-sufficiency, probably the leader. The point is have you thought about that yet? Because I'm somebody that thought I could fix this, and I'm starting to think about having to eat my neighbors. You think I like sizing up my neighbor, how I'm going to haul him up by a chain and chop his ass up? I'll do it. My children aren't going hungry. I will eat your ass.
I'm sorry. Wow. How quickly did he go to cannibalism? I mean, like, didn't even skip a step. Like, I mean, I've got some food supplies for a little while, but I'm really thinking about eating my neighbor. You know, I'm sizing up my neighbor and seeing whether or not I can get a few good flank steaks out of him. You know, that's got to be a bit of a record. And also, imagine if you're Alex Jones' neighbor, which is probably already pretty bad, right? You had to have been a little concerned before this, right? Now, like, are you frantically, searching on Zillow? Like, I got to get out of here, dude. Wow, this is really, really bad. I also found it interesting when he said, how have you not already thought about this? That's because we're normal human beings. We're not insane. And we don't think about killing and eating our neighbors. It's only been a month. It's only been a month since we really got hit with coronavirus, right? Since it got pretty bad. And now, not only do we have, waves of literal Karens and Chads that are armed, that are storming state houses because they want to get a freaking haircut and eat at the dine-in. But now at the same time, you have Alex Jones openly saying, hey, you know what? Cannibalism. A month. 1 month. And if all this wasn't enough, again, I have a feeling that this is not the worst that you can get. I don't think we've hit bottom yet. Not even close. Not even close. Yikes. 2020, everybody. It's May 1st. What's going to happen in the next few days? What's going to happen in the next month? I shudder to think. But hey, at least there are people on social media. These are conservatives are dunking on Alex Jones. This is fun. Even Ben Shapiro is saying Alex Jones eating his neighbor's ass Twitter is the best Twitter. Look, I have very little in common with Ben Shapiro, but that's pretty good. That's a good dunk. So credit where credit is due. Am I not the most fair person in the entire country? Wow. All right. Moving on. Yep. The office of Mike Pence has reportedly threatened to ban a reporter for Voice of America Radio for embarrassing the vice president. So now this goes back to when Vice President Pence had visited the Mayo Clinic and did so without wearing a mask. Now, the mask wasn't to protect the president or the vice president. The mask is to protect everyone else. That's why almost everybody in that photo, just about everybody except for Pence, is wearing a mask. It's so that we protect each other, right? Especially if you're in a place where there is coronavirus present. So now he didn't wear a mask, and his excuse was, well, I didn't know. I had no idea that we had to wear masks here. Nobody told me. Well, this reporter actually was like, no, that's not at all true, because we're the press. We were all told that, yes, if we're going to go into the Mayo Clinic, we all have to wear masks. So now the Washington Post reported this, that President Pence's office had now threatened to retaliate against that reporter, who revealed that Pence's office had told journalists that they would need masks for Pence's visit to the Mayo Clinic, a requirement Pence himself did not follow, and of course obvious, because he got a lot of pushback, he got a lot of backlash. And by the way, now he's gone to some other places, and guess what? He's been wearing a mask, of course. Now, Pence's wife, Karen Pence, whom he calls mother, which is a little strange, said in an interview with Fox News that he was unaware of the mask policy until his visit was over. Steve Herman, however, who covers the White House for Voice of America, said, no, there was more to the story after Karen Pence's interview. Quote, all of us who traveled with him were notified by the office of VP the day before the trip that wearing masks was required by the Mayo Clinic and to prepare accordingly. Gordon Lubald adds on to that and says, also, everyone in the entire Mayo Clinic had a mask on. Everyone. And we were all told the day before we had to wear a mask if we entered the clinic. Oops. That's embarrassing. Imagine banning a reporter for doing his job, because his job is to report facts. Those facts were, I guess, really inconvenient for Mike Pence. Embarrassing, even. Well, again, because he was caught in an obvious lie. Like, yeah, my office told everybody about the mask, but didn't tell me. No, that's BS. You absolutely knew. Which means, of course, that he did it for a reason. And that reason, of course, is, I think, and this is my speculation, that he's sending a message to MAGA folk, right? Don't worry. Don't worry about this. Everything's fine. You don't need to wear a mask when you're out. I didn't. And look, even if it's an unintentional message, it's still a message. And that was received. And now you've got people out there, you've got protesters out there that are not wearing their masks, that are not social distancing. They don't really care about this whole thing. It's whatever. It's just like the flu. Over 60,000 people have died in this country. Over 1 million people have it now. And in states, by the way, where they have started to open up, you're already seeing spikes in coronavirus patients. So, I mean, if it was a message received, but it's a terrible message. If it was a mistake, and I don't think that it was, I certainly don't think that it was. It's one that put people in danger, put himself in danger, and you shouldn't be going after the reporter who pointed that out. No, what you should have done is take responsibility. Okay, take responsibility. Just admit, yeah, look, I made a mistake. I didn't wear a mask when I should have. Now I'm wearing a mask. And now I'm doing the smart thing. And by the way, he's allowed to wear a mask now because of all of that pushback. So first don't wear a mask, then wear a mask, and then threaten the very reporter that reported on him not wearing it in the first place. I mean, that's what we're dealing with in the White House right now. That's what we're dealing with the vice president, and that's what we're dealing with, unfortunately, in the entire Trump administration. Okay. So now let's get to the serious stories. Biden supporters, ooh, this is going to be uncomfortable. All right.
I've extrapolated this out.
Sorry, we'll get away from the ass eating. Wrong video. All right, now we're good. Presumptive Democratic nominee Joe Biden has finally spoken out about the sexual assault allegations from his former Senate aide, and he did so on MSNBC's Morning Joe. Let's take a look.
Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reade?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
All right, so that's fairly clear. This is the first time that he had to openly address these allegations. And of course, he's going to deny them because everyone knew that was going to happen. He was going to deny it. His campaign had denied it for quite some time. So now the only reason that he's speaking out is because now you have MSNBC's Chris Hayes that had talked about this. You had CNN that's been talking about this. And it comes after more corroborating evidence has come forward. So you have a total of about 4 people who recall Reade telling them about not only uncomfortable touching, but also the sexual assault, alleged sexual assault. You got her brother, mother, neighbor, and a friend back in the 90s. In fact, that newest corroborating evidence came from that former neighbor who went on the record with Business Insider openly earlier this week. This is a woman who, again, has revealed herself. Linda Lacoste, right, is a neighbor, former neighbor, as I said. And she says, look, I plan to vote for Biden. Yeah, of course. But she still told me about this. And, I believe her because I'm also a sexual assault victim. So I've been through this before. And so I can tell. I know what it's like. And so, yes, I believe her. And that is really important. That is a character witness. That is corroborating evidence right there. So now that's really important. Big piece of evidence. Now, Mika Brzezinski, who's doing this interview, she actually did a pretty decent job. She leaves out a couple of things, but that's a fairly small criticism there. But she actually talks about the comparison between the Kavanaugh hearings and Biden's own quotes on whether or not we should believe women. Here's that segment.
You said that women should be believed. You said this: for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she is talking about is real. Whether or not she forgets the facts, whether or not it's been made worse or better over time. She's going to be going on national television on Sunday. Tara Reade is coming forward in the glaring lights. To use your words, should we not start off with the presumption that the essence of what she's talking about is real? She says you sexually assaulted her.
Look, from the very beginning, I've said believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously when she steps forward and then vet it, look into it. That's true in this case as well. Women have a right to be heard, and the press should rigorously investigate claims they make. I'll always uphold that principle. But in the end, in every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is the claims are false.
Okay, so look, he says the truth is truth matters, right? Okay, well, in order to get to the truth, I propose an investigation. You investigate the claims. He says he doesn't do it. He didn't do it, of course. But where's the investigation? Now, if you're there, if you're pointing at the New York Times, speaking to a few Biden staffers, 3 staffers, well, then that's not really an investigation. According to BuzzFeed, who received a list of talking points from the Biden campaign, which went to 2 Democratic operatives that said Biden believes all women have a right to be heard and have their claims thoroughly reviewed, right? Basically what Biden had said there. In this case, a thorough review by the New York Times had led to the truth. The incident did not happen. Now, the New York Times says, actually, we didn't say that. What we did not do an investigation. It was not a thorough investigation. We asked some staffers of his in the Senate, and they said they don't recall. In fact, Biden's talking points, according to BuzzFeed, say the Times story served as proof that Reid's allegation did not happen, but the story did not conclude this, nor did it conclude that an assault definitively did happen. The Times reported that 3 former Senate aides, all of whom Reid said she complained to at the time, either did not remember the incident or said it did not happen. So most of what you hear is, I don't recall. I don't recall. So we've heard that before. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm not saying that it did happen. I don't really recall. I don't remember. So that's important. That's important context when you look at the statements from those former Senate aides, many of whom might owe their careers to Joe Biden or the Democratic Party, who was firmly behind Joe Biden. So I wouldn't really think that that's the strongest case. Now, the Time also spoke to former interns who said they remember Reid suddenly ceasing to oversee them, meaning that she had, if she had really, complained to people that were higher up, that she suffered a career setback because of that. Actual punishment, being removed from those positions. And so that is good corroborating evidence that helps her case. The New York Times, however, says, oh, look, man, there's just not enough evidence either way. I mean, so look, I don't think, I don't believe Biden's denial. I think that we need to find the facts. That's what we need to do. Now, here's the other thing. The other reason that I don't believe Joe Biden, and it's not because, and I know this will inevitably come up. Oh, you just want Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, you want him to be replaced at the convention. That's not going to happen. Okay, that's not going to happen. I know that's not going to happen. Would it be great? Sure. But this is about, it's about truth. It's about holding to our principles. And our principles are, we believe when women make accusations, that they deserve to have those accusations, investigated. And people, that do that stuff in office, that do sexual harassment and assault, have to get, have to be held accountable. And that's what that is. We're trying to hold people accountable and get to the truth of the matter. If Biden actually didn't do this, well, then we deserve to know through an investigation. And if Biden did do this, then he must be held accountable. It's the same standard that we tried to apply to Brett Kavanaugh. Now, unfortunately, you had conservatives that played from the same playbook. Deny, and then question the victim. In this case, there's actually more corroborating evidence for Tara Reid than there was for Christine Blasey Ford, who I believe because she gave an incredible testimony. Nonetheless, it's that same playbook, and I am afraid that we're going to see the same outcome, that people in power will plug their ears, they will ignore this, and she will not get any sort of justice. So now, the other thing is, the other reason that I don't believe Joe Biden is that Joe Biden has a history of lying about things. I mean, there's a lot of examples of him lying about stuff. I'll get to those, right? But also, I mean, he also has a history of uncomfortably touching people and getting really, really close. Now, I'm not equating that to sexual assault by any means, right? But he seems rather at ease with violating the personal space of women. And that's not a good thing. That is something that has been dogging him for many, many years. That is something that people have pointed out, like, hey, he's a little creepy. Like, what's going on here? Like, stop being too close to, getting too close to women, smelling their hair. And there are 8 different allegations of him just doing that kind of creepy stuff where women felt very uncomfortable. And so there's a history of that. But when you combine it with the lying, the situation gets worse. In fact, in 1988, Biden dropped his candidacy over accusations that he had plagiarized material and exaggerated his academic record, or basically, lied. He lied. He lied about putting immigrants in cages. Now, he said the Obama administration never put immigrants in cages. That's not true. This was fact-checked by PolitiFact. Now, the difference is they never did family separations. Donald Trump did family separations, and that's arguably worse. But you can't say that the Obama administration did not put immigrants in fences or cages, right? Biden also lied about being against the Iraq War. From the moment that it launched, he said he was against it. That's not true. PolitiFact also rated that false. He lied about teaching at Penn. In fact, during a town hall earlier this year, he told people, quote, "When I left the United States Senate, I became a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. And the University of Delaware has the Biden School as well. So I spent a lot of time on campus with college students." In reality, here's what he really did for Penn. The Philadelphia Inquirer reported that Biden was paid $371,159 in 2017, plus $540,484 in 2018 and early 2019 for what it called a vaguely defined role that involved no regular classes and around a dozen public appearances on campus, mostly in big ticketed events. So these are kind of like the speeches for Hillary Clinton with the banks in 2016. So he says he's a professor, he has no classes, and gets paid tons and tons of money. Biden also has claimed several times that he was arrested back in the 1970s trying to see Nelson Mandela in prison. That is also demonstrably not true. He also said he co-sponsored the Endangered Species Act. He did not, and there's a lot more. Point is, even if it's small lies and some big ones, some whoppers, he has a history of not being honest and telling people that he had taken positions and done things that when you investigate it, you find out he didn't actually do, or he had taken a completely different position on. He's a pathological liar. Now, in case you're saying, but what about Trump? Trump's a pathological liar too. We know that. I don't believe anything either of them say. Yes, Donald Trump also has a lot of sexual assault and rape allegations against him, far more than Joe Biden does. He's also lied way more than Joe Biden. I get that. But are we at the point where that's a defense? Hey man, look, our guy has lied plenty of times and did sexual assault and alleged rape. But, I mean, Trump did more. what are you going to do? Maybe we shouldn't have picked the person who is weakest against Donald Trump in these areas. Because you can't attack Donald Trump on that stuff when you have the same problems, when you have the same issues. And even worse, you can't attack Donald Trump on his weaknesses when you have those very same weaknesses. And so that's the problem here. Okay, this is an issue. And I would rather we have picked someone else, just about anybody else, to go up against Donald Trump. And right now, I mean, are we stuck in this situation? I mean, that's really up to the Biden campaign, really. And look, I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that we need to know the truth, right? If Biden is innocent, then we've got to see the facts. We do. There needs to be an actual, impartial, real investigation, not a sham investigation like Kavanaugh's. Okay? We need to see documentation. We need to see if Reid actually filed that complaint or not back in the 1990s. And that's going to go a long way to proving her case or disproving her case and proving Biden to have been to be innocent. A real investigation to find out the truth. That's exactly what we need. All right. So I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We got a couple more stories on Biden, including where we could possibly find some of this investigation, where the investigation should actually be, and of course, Biden's possible VP pick. We'll talk about that. All right. Stay right here. We'll be back. We'll read some comments, super chats, all that stuff. Stay right here. Round the Nation.
Mike Pence.
Wait. You're getting nervous, man.
Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TWT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. I spent some time reading your comments. A lot of stuff that I want to, talk about, respond to, really. We're Here Pirates with a pretty good one. Sure, Hitler was a bad guy, but Genghis Khan was worse. Yeah, it's that nice little whataboutism, right? Gary Berger points out how Bernie would have mopped the floor with Trump. The DNC didn't like Bernie, so here we are. That's unfortunately true. Not only did the DNC not like Bernie Sanders, but the media hated Bernie Sanders as well. And as another person points out, that the DNC, this is Destin Dunn actually, the DNC saw their bottom line drop with Bernie. Yeah, so that's an important point that I hadn't actually talked about before. So it's not just, not just the fact that they would not take corporate money for the presidency, but also Bernie Sanders, if he becomes president, he basically gets to appoint everybody to the DNC. So gone are all the oil lobbyists or any lobbyists, right? So they're not going to be raising money from corporations anymore to fund the DNC. It's going to be funded mainly by regular people, donations. So they're not going to get as much. Then we also have, of course, progressive members in Congress. So a Bernie Sanders ticket would probably turn out more progressives to vote for more progressive candidates. More progressive candidates in office means less candidates that will go and raise money, because a lot of what these politicians do in the establishment, in the Democratic Party, is that they raise money. They raise money not just for their own campaigns, but they raise money for the Democratic Party as well. So all this corporate money is going into the Democratic Party coffers. If they get replaced by progressives, that money is gone. They're not going to have that money anymore. Then they're actually going to have to start appealing to the people. And of course, the people are actually much more progressive than, anybody that's currently running as an establishment candidate. So all that stuff, it does come down to money. And it comes down to, of course, power as well. And so, that's the unfortunate situation. That's why it's so difficult to try to reform this party that is basically addicted to the cash, addicted to corporate money. So thank you for pointing that out. That's an excellent one. By the way, Destin Dunn, thank you very much. I do appreciate you guys as well. So thank you so much for those super chats and those donations. LL makes a fun point. World War II lasted about 6 years. Food shortages, Victory Gardens, COVID-19, 6 weeks of isolation later. Eat your neighbors. Yeah. I will be putting that on the soundboard, though. I will eat your ass. Fun times. And BK says, plan the following. Get Biden in the White House. 25th is about immediately install the BP and make it clear to Joe it will happen now. I'm guessing that's probably going to be the Republican plan. Because think about it this way. Joe Biden has said he's open to picking a Republican. He actually said that. And so, establishment Republicans are dreaming about this quote unquote unity ticket. And I've heard talk about this. Unity ticket by picking a Republican Veep. Like a Mitt Romney. Are you effing kidding me? Hell no. First thing they would do is 25th Amendment, impeach him, get him out of there. And then you have a Republican president. Like, what's going on? Why would you even consider that? It's ridiculous. And we'll get to more of the VP story later on. But, this is probably... I thought 2016 was the worst election. No, this has topped it. Not good. Very bad. Couple more here. James Watson says, I hate the idea of DNC replacing Biden with whomever they want. That removes democracy from the process. I agree with you. He says at the same time, it needs to happen for our safety and security. I would be, here's the situation. I would actually be okay with it if they gave the delegates to the person who ran in second place. Now, that would be Bernie Sanders. And you might think, oh, that's convenient. Bernie, bro, see? But no, if it had been someone, if it had been Elizabeth Warren or anybody else, really, because it's supposed to be a fair process. If anybody else was leading Bernie Sanders or in the second spot, they should get the delegates. If the leader, if the person that has the most is unable to serve in that role. And so if it comes to that, I would hope that they would give it to the person that has the second. But as they proved, I believe in 68, they don't have to. They can just give it to anybody as per their own rules. And that would be a disaster because just like what happened when they tried doing it the first time, there would be riots and it would be a disastrous convention. Who knows what's coming, man? 2020 has already been a wild year. And so I can expect it getting even crazier. All right. So one more here. Jonathan Andrzejczyk says, is it a good idea to compare the stories? I understand why in the hypocrisy, but it seems like it might be a disservice to Ms. Ford. I get why you would say that, and I understand. But again, we should apply the same standard that we gave to Blasey Ford to everyone else. And so on that standard, there is the hypocrisy, and it's important to talk about. None of this is meant to, like throw shade on Ms. Ford. Again, I believe her. I believe her because of her testimony and because of what we've seen. And pointing out that there is actually a little bit more corroborating evidence to point out the hypocrisy, I don't think that does her a disservice. It does the people who are defending this and doing the hypocrisy more of a disservice than anyone else. That's my take on that. And feel free to disagree, of course. All right. So let's move on. We've got more stories here related to Biden. Am I wearing pants today? I don't know. I could be. Might not be. You never know. You'll never know. All right. Serious stuff now. Dr. Ford. Yes. Thank you. Earlier today, presumptive nominee Joe Biden addressed the allegations of sexual assault against him by a former Senate staffer. He flatly, of course, denied that he assaulted the staffer and pointed out that he believes that there is no evidence of this. Now, central to Reed's claims, aside from the corroborating evidence from 4 different witnesses, people that she had told about the assault at the time, are Senate records of her making an official complaint. She said that she made an official complaint to 3 different Senate staffers and that the New York Times had spoken to those staffers, and they said, well, we don't recall. We don't remember. So now a complaint would be in the official records. So it's kind of important to find that. I mean, it's not the most important nor the only piece of evidence, but it would be substantial in corroborating her account, or if it doesn't actually exist, vindicating Joe Biden. So now when Biden was asked about his Senate records becoming public, he said this.
The fact is that there's a lot of things of speeches I've made, positions I've taken, interviews that I did overseas with people, all of those things relating to my job. And the idea that they would all be made public in the fact while I was running for public office, they could be really taken out of context. The papers are position papers. They are documents that existed and that when I, for example, when I met with Putin or when I met with whomever, and all of that to be fodder in a campaign at this time, I don't know of anybody who's done anything like that.
So he said there, he's not planning on releasing any of his Senate files, going to keep them sealed. Now, he originally planned on releasing those after he got out of public life. And it was actually set to be released 2 years after he had ended public life. That would have been in 2019. However, since he decided to run for president, he delayed that. And now those records remain sealed and he will not unseal them. So now he says, and look, I guess politically it makes sense. Hey, man, I'm not going to release this stuff because it might contain things that look bad politically. Now he says, well, take me out of context. In reality, I think it would prove a lot of the things that we've said before, that he is a habitual liar. Let's be honest. He has a history of lying and saying things that are not true, and also plagiarizing. He had to quit his 88 campaign because of those things. And so you can look it up, where he said he was against the Iraq War as soon as it started. That's not true. PolitiFact fact-checked that and found it to be a lie. And you can look at his entire history of lying, and you'll find that he's told quite a few whoppers. So now, those records, right? So you're not releasing those records now that you're under scrutiny. As I said before, it is understandable from a political perspective. But now that Biden has a credible allegation against him, a very serious one of sexual assault, releasing those records, well, I mean, look, if there is no complaint in there, then you've got nothing to worry about. And I think releasing it would be a prudent course of action, even if it does allow Trump a little bit of fodder. Now, it's not as if Trump doesn't have reams of Oppo research on you anyway. Biden is literally the most flawed candidate that we ever had. And so it's kind of strange that he's not doing this. Stranger still is what recently got reported by Business Insider. They reported that Biden's campaign had dispatched operatives to the University of Delaware's library to go through those sealed Senate records. Now, again, those records were supposed to be sealed until his career was over at the end of 2019. But again, as I mentioned before, he reversed that decision. So how many records are we talking about? About 1,875 boxes of photographs, documents, videotapes, and files, and 415 gigabytes of electronic records. So there is literally a lot of stuff, but Biden's had a very, very long career. Now, Biden officials, according to this report in Business Insider, had rifled through the documents on at least one occasion, citing a statement from university spokeswoman Andrea Boyle Tippett. Now, the campaign's visit to the library came at some point after Biden announced his presidential campaign in April of 2019, but before mid-March 2020, when the library closed due to coronavirus. No one from the Biden team has visited since the closure, according to Tippett. Now, if you're going to, if there's a complaint in there, it would be in the Senate records. I mean, if that's where it exists, where it will be. Okay, makes sense. Now, the Washington Post and the Atlantic have been calling on Biden to unseal those records. So now that the mainstream media has basically declared the primary over, which, by the way, Biden has not clinched the nomination. He does not have enough delegates to clinch the nomination. And I point that out not because, magically somebody's going to come in and, get enough of those delegates. I'm saying simply as fact, we still have primary elections to go. Even if New York canceled its primary, there are still delegates, and they still have to apportion delegates because Biden does not have enough, as I said, to clinch that nomination, right? So now it's important that they release these, that they unseal these records so that they can do an investigation, right? And so, unfortunately, they're not going to do that. Now, there's a couple of reasons. Again, Biden says, we don't need to release them. I don't want to release them. It's going to be campaign fodder, right? But another reason could be, again, that there's something in there, or many things in there, that could even be related to this and could prove Tara Reade's story, which would be devastating. Now, Biden also has close personal financial ties to the to top officials on the board of the University of Delaware. Now, the chairman of the board bought Biden's house in 1996 for $1.2 million, reportedly a top dollar price given its condition. The University of Delaware's charter states that the board of trustees has entire control and management of the affairs of the university, and the current chairman of the board, John Cochran, is a longtime Biden donor and former CEO of MBNA. So, look, this is probably why the University of Delaware itself has said, no, we're not going to unseal these records. We're going to help Biden out here. And, we're just going to keep this under wraps. You can't get the records. Sorry. Now, MBNA is a bank that has given millions of dollars to Biden's campaigns throughout the years. Millions of dollars. In fact, Biden's nickname, you can remember, he's a senator from MBNA because of those very, very close ties. In defense of the credit card industry, in fact, Elizabeth Warren first said she got into politics because of Biden and his corruption and his close ties with the credit card industry. And so, look, it's not a surprise that you've got people in this very important position that control his Senate records being very close with Joe Biden. In total, 7 other members at the University of Delaware's Board of Trustees have donated their donors to Biden's campaign. I'm detecting a little bit of a conflict of interest when it comes to this. And look, preventing a possible piece of evidence from being uncovered, if it exists, look, it bolsters her case if it exists. And if it doesn't, it helps Joe Biden. Either way, those records are getting a lot of scrutiny now. That puts Biden, that puts the University of Delaware in a very tight spot because it ain't like they're not going to start asking, especially when the president of the United States starts to chime in. I mean, look, this is a difficult situation. Biden's career is full of him spreading falsehoods. He previously dropped out, as I said before, from presidential contests as a result of being caught up in those falsehoods. And he's been plagiarizing other people. So this is a really bad situation for him. I mean, there's only one way that he's going to get through these allegations, and that's release the records. All right. Moving on. One more here. Former Vice President Joe Biden is facing pressure from his donors not to select Senator Elizabeth Warren as his running mate. Now, one Biden fundraiser told CNBC, quote, I think a lot of the donor base on board and coming would prefer almost anyone but Elizabeth. I don't see him choosing her for Veep. Well, look, let's be honest, I don't either. I mean, interestingly enough, she actually seems to be one of the most popular pick among the female candidates that Biden has been allegedly considering. In fact, a recent YouGov poll, which was conducted between April 26th and 28th, found that voters were most enthusiastic about Biden-Warren. Newsweek reported Warren was backed by 26% of Democratic respondents, while Senator Kamala Harris of California came in second with support from 18% of the party's voters. Stacey Abrams, came in third with 12, and Klobuchar came in fourth with 11. Now, it's important to note that Stacey Abrams, she's actually been very shameless in her audition to become Biden's BP pick. I mean, look, she claims that Biden has, absolutely not sexually assaulted that staffer. We don't know the truth. I believe Tara Reid. I believe the allegations, and I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, and also looking for more information to corroborate her story. So far, she's got 4 different people that corroborate her story. There's a call into Larry King that her mother made, asking about the situation back in the 90s, and so there's a lot of evidence so far. More evidence could be, of course, gathered from his unsealing his Senate records. Nonetheless, Abrams says, oh, no. The New York Times did an investigation, and they found that Joe Biden didn't do this. Now, that's not what the New York Times had said. Look, they had to put out a statement saying that they found no evidence for this or against this. So that's where the New York Times is at. All they had done is talk to a couple of staffers who say they could not recall, they don't remember any complaint being filed. But back to the donors, right? So the donors are saying, we want somebody who's donor friendly. Elizabeth Warren, not donor friendly. We don't like her. In fact, one unnamed Wall Street executive claimed that Warren would be a, quote, horrible choice and would lead to Biden losing the election. Now, according to CNBC, a number of wealthy Biden donors have had conversations with the campaign to pressure him to pick a more palatable option for Wall Street. Now, those conversations have recently included attempts to push the campaign away from picking Warren and encouraging the choice of other candidates on his list, such as Kamala Harris and Amy Klobuchar, as well as Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. John Morgan, a Florida businessman and Biden supporter, said he was distressed by the turn that Warren took in the primary, where she, quote, tried to out-Bernie Bernie. It was a sharp contrast to the Warren for whom Morgan implied he held a fundraiser. There were two Elizabeth Warrens. The one I had in my home when she was a U.S. Senator and consumer champion. She was awesome. Now, let me stop there. You know the big problem that us progressives have with Elizabeth Warren? The fact that there are two Warrens. And he just pointed that out. Yeah, there's two Warrens. There's one that's, massively progressive. And then there's one that isn't. I mean, that's not quite what he was saying. Yes, he was pointing out that, she was running way too progressive. In reality, the Warren that I know is more moderate. Okay. So that's interesting. And by the way, I believe the real Warren is a career opportunist. That's just what I get from covering her for so long. She is a careerist, and she is, yes, she has done some decent things, and she has pushed some decent policies, but she's also not an honest actor. She's not somebody who is deeply, deeply progressive, and is someone who is more concerned about amassing power. That's why we don't trust her. So now, here's what's interesting about the Biden campaign. So now, you guys remember in 2016, the Hillary Clinton campaign says, we don't want progressives, we don't need you. We're not going to come towards your position really at all. I mean, yes, we're going to do a little bit of lip service here and there. Biden's campaign is slightly different in the fact that they're saying, well, we do need you. We do want you. We hear you. We hear you. Oh, okay. Well, you hear us, right? Well, I think you don't hear us enough because we're saying Medicare for all, Green New Deal, and we're not, we didn't stutter. Okay. That's what we want before we'll even consider. Come to us on policy if you want our votes. We also want our candidate to not take money from Wall Street. And yes, a lot of us are still not going to believe him if he comes to those policies because, again, Biden has a history of not being honest. So now, still, we might see if Biden is actually serious about, picking a VP that is at least somewhat progressive some of the time. And to be honest, a lot of us have really low expectations. A lot of us, myself, at least I can only speak for myself, I do believe that he's going to pick somebody who is like Gretchen Whitmer or Amy Klobuchar, right? Which would be a slap in the face to progressives. Now, the Biden campaign is saying, no, we're listening to you guys. We'll pick someone else. Well, again, if you're listening, then you would not pick someone like Elizabeth Warren. You would pick someone who is actually progressive. You would choose a Nina Turner or a Bernie Sanders to be your BP. But of course, the establishment would never go along with that, a Bernie Sanders pick especially, because they don't want Bernie Sanders anywhere near the White House at all. And so they think look, if they think that choosing Elizabeth Warren is going to placate a lot of progressives, I don't think so. They're definitely not. No, I don't think it's going to happen whatsoever. No, I think he's going to go safe. I think he's going to go with the donors ultimately, and choose a Gretchen Whitmer. I think that's pretty much the choice. We'll see what happens, but I can tell you with a fair amount of certainty, the donors will likely win out because Joe Biden has a lot of problems raising money. I don't think he will choose Warren. He's got a lot of issues. He needs that donor money. He needs the bundlers because Donald Trump has a massive, massive money advantage. And there's no enthusiasm for Biden, especially from young people, especially from that Bernie Sanders base, which is why you've got Bernie Sanders out there saying, please donate to the Democratic Party, to which a lot of us progressives are saying, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. How about no? So I do very much think that it's going to be someone other than Warren, that it's going to be someone safe, that it's going to be someone palatable to the donors. And I can tell you with a fair amount of certainty, that is not Elizabeth Warren. So, all right, there's that. I think Biden will pick Mitt Romney, says Weary Pirates. Oh my God, that would be a disaster and a half. Immediately impeached, removed, 25th Amendmented, and then guess what? Mitt Romney's president. Disaster. All right. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me. Please like and share the stream. Thank you for, again, tuning in. Please subscribe and check out the podcast. It's going to drop for patrons on Saturday evening. We'll record it at 3:00. We'll see how long it runs. And I should have it up later that night for patrons only. And then I will release the podcast for everyone else on Sunday. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. And we'll see you later. And remember, change begins with you. Wait, what? No, change begins with you. Sorry. I haven't eaten anything and my head is swimming. So I'll see you guys later.
Please clap.
Why? You're getting nervous, man.
Mike Pounds.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.